What's up, everybody? Welcome back into another episode of The Lawyer You Know. Not a ton of intro necessary here. We've got Bob Alessi and David Yannetti from Karen Reed's team joining us tonight, mostly to talk about what it's like to deal with such a high-profile trial with everybody on social media, everybody in the world, basically, not just the country, talking about a case, what kind of pressure that puts on lawyers, what tips they have for lawyers that may be facing the same types of trials and ordeals in the future. I do want to announce that I'm going to try to mix in as many of your questions as possible. There are certain things they can't talk about and don't want to get into attorney-client privilege, et cetera, which we know about from other conversations we've had with other lawyers on these types of cases. So just so you guys know that. And I'll be watching the chat, watching the super chats, reading all of your questions to myself and try to work them in. We're not going to throw any up on the screen or anything like that. And I will read all of them at the end after they take off. I'm going to be respectful with their time, try to keep it as close to 1 hour as I usually like to do with my videos anyways. But without further ado, make sure you guys subscribe and hit that like button. Let's get to it. As I'm doing my intro at Speedy Gonzalez speed, I can just imagine Bob Alessi saying, "Slow down, sir, slow down." Tell him where you're going, and then start driving the car down there. I appreciate you guys so much for being here. David Yannetti, offices in Boston and Dedham. We got to make sure they know where your offices are. I loved that. And Salem, just so everybody knows.
I didn't mention Salem during the trial, but I've got one in Salem too.
Good. So we know local guy. And then Bob Alessi, I'm going to make this joke, Bob. I mean, no offense by it. And I already know this is coming because I told you it would. Just a civil lawyer, Bob Alessi, who practices a ton of civil litigation and trial work, which I think will be funny to some of the chat because they know I've been called the same thing online as just a civil lawyer. Yet that's how lawyers work, right? And I appreciate you guys so much for being here. I'm excited to hang out for a little bit tonight.
Well, it's great to be here. I'm sorry, Bob, you go ahead.
No, it's great to be here. Peter, you're a very experienced and very acclaimed lawyer. And I'm very much looking forward to talking about lawyering. You've done it at a high level, and your father is a legend in your area and beyond. So this is just a great privilege to be on and to be talking with you. And please do make sure you give my best regards to the legend also known as your father.
I will.
I was just going to add, Peter, you're not just a great attorney and, just incredible insights on this podcast. I think it's certainly one of the best out there, but it has been drilled into my head prior to this appearance that you're also a heartthrob. The women that I have told this to are just ready to faint that I actually get to talk to you. So I feel very lucky.
We never have any of that in this chat, so we don't have to worry about it. The chat will make sure everything stays on track and stays on topic here. So I think it's cool because, I saw you guys' interview with Runkle and you got into a lot of different things there and how the dream team was put together and the work that you guys did. It's been a few days. And I told you when we talked earlier, congratulations. I mean, this just is unexplainable. Cloud 9, you've got to feel that way. It's a really hard job. One of you guys said that on the phone. It's a very difficult profession to be a lawyer and a trial lawyer, but it's really fulfilling. It can be really fun. What are you feeling now? David, we'll start with you. What are you kind of feeling now that it's been a few days? What's the come down like and what's getting back to real life like?
It's a really good question. And both of you guys know this. For me, I hate being a trial lawyer while I'm a trial lawyer, but when it's done, there's nothing better in the world. And I got to think that it's almost like a woman having a baby. Like they don't remember the labor and they just have this beautiful baby at the end of the day. And that's kind of what it's like after the jury comes back. I mean, you're working so hard and focusing on one thing and putting all your heart and soul into it for so long. And then you lose complete control over what's going to happen, which is the worst thing for a lawyer because we all are control freaks. Mm-hmm. But then when you get a verdict like we did here, it's like the sky's clear, and you celebrate the cool of the evening, and it's like it was all worth it. So for me, I'm just like now trying to catch up to my other clients and my other cases. I was in court today, and I'm enjoying the temporary fame that this case has brought.
What about you, Bob? I know you eat, sleep, and breathe being a lawyer. What's your feeling coming down a couple days later after a big time trial like this?
I am elated for several reasons, most of all because I think justice was served. The practice of law next to family and religion is everything to me. I love everything about it. I like the grind. I like the trial work. I like the prep. I like the exhilaration. It's very much akin to my boxing background, where you train hard. You're getting ready to go in the ring. You've got fear, you've got anxiety, but then once you're in there, you get in the groove, you get in the focus. So, coming out of it, it's you do savor the moment, as David says, the cool of the evening. But I'm most happy for our client, Karen Reed, that in her family, that's what this was all about. But I think I'd be naive to say that there isn't more there with a larger community, the community writ large, really throughout the world. And that's what's a little bit different about the after effect of this. I feel like I had the privilege of being part of the representation of the entire community of the world. And with that came an obligation to work harder, work smarter. And I just feel great for everybody that has, that's so invested in this, that I, in some way, contributed to making the result work for them as well. So, in sum, I'm back to, in a few days, practicing law. I've had clients that have been wonderfully patient with me, and I'm looking forward to the next case, the next trial, because I really think that that's what I'm wired for, and want to see if I can go assist somebody. And last point, I hope that the people who are invested continue to be invested, because there's a lot of work to be done in the justice system, which is the greatest in the world, but there are still some improvements to be made.
Yeah, there's always improvements to be made. I was planning on talking about it later, but I did want to mention to you, my mom's dad, my grandfather, was like a world-class boxing trainer. He trained Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, Macho Camacho. I remember I was a kid. I went to Atlantic City. He was like, I think he was training Camacho now, and Camacho was fighting Duran. And I got to meet them all, and it was just a crazy experience. So boxing is a crazy world. I never turned out to be one. My cousin, who's my only other boy cousin, male cousin, he was kind of like an amateur one with my grandfather. But when I heard you were a boxer, I was like, oh boy, that is that in jiu-jitsu. Like, everybody's into jiu-jitsu now. And I feel like that type of stuff is such an interesting combo with being a lawyer, and learning strategy and learning what to do when you get punched in the mouth. As Tyson says, everybody's got a plan, right? Lawyers try to have a plan, but my dad always says a trial is a living, breathing thing. And you've always got to be able to adapt and be ready for whatever's next. And in this trial, it was living and breathing in a way that's unlike most trials. I've tried a few cases, and never once have I had people looking at what I wear when I walk into the courtroom every day and talking about it online, or lining up at the door, screaming things when I walk out. Some nice, some maybe not so nice. What was it like at the beginning of, David, you can talk about trial number 1 or trial number 2, walking into that courthouse, knowing the eyes and the pressure and the passion that was behind what you were fighting for? What was your mindset like?
So, it's funny, because you think that you would alter your approach, or you'd be conscious all the time of the cameras. But really, I won't speak for Bob, but for me, the opposite is true. The courtroom, did you ever make it out there, Peter, at any point?
To where you guys tried the case? I did not.
Okay, so the courtroom is really tiny. There's a bench for maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 people on either side. And beyond that, it's like there's the jury box, and you're all on top of each other, So it gives the illusion of intimacy. And, I, for one, forget about the cameras. And thank God I do, because, I think if you were self-conscious, or if you're, kind of serving two masters, where, you're first trying to be effective in your cross-examination, but then, boy, are they getting the right side of my face? Or, should I, do this or do that for the cameras? You don't think about, I didn't think about that stuff at all. And, to the point where, there's in this trial in particular, I don't think they had it during the last one, but in this one, there was a camera like right in front of us. It's like having a webcam right in front of you. And you can forget that people are watching you 24/7, not just when you're, performing, doing an examination or giving an argument, but when you're just sitting there, like, kind of like, thinking or daydreaming or whatever you're doing at counsel table, the eyes are on you. And I'm just glad that, even though that was the case, I wasn't really conscious of that.
Yeah, and I think that, it caught the moment everybody was talking about when you were very emotional when the verdict came in, and nobody can blame you for that. But we're thankful for that camera angle, because we got to see one of the things I like to talk about on this channel and with you guys is lawyers are real normal people. Like, we feel like cyborgs sometimes, especially Bob Alessi, who I'm going to get to, who just feels like he can walk in there and his brain is above it all. My dad also always says when we prep for experts, you become like a little mini expert on whatever that is, like a Medicare fraud case. We become an expert on all the billing codes and what they can do and can't do. But my dad always says, and this is how I learned it too, it's like once we're done, kind of like hit it and it all falls out the other side.
So
I have a feeling that doesn't happen with Bob. I don't think it all falls out the other side. But what was it like, Bob? I mean, you're brought in, what it felt like to the public, right? I don't know the actual purpose, but what it felt like to the public is you were brought in as an expert to handle the experts and some very difficult issues and to handle some of the procedure and the arguments in this case. And you had to know, people like me and all the people in this chat are reading the motions being written, are watching the arguments. They know the responses. What was your thought to have all these opinions and all these eyes on every step you were going to take, even before the trial started?
The honest answer is I was undaunted. However, I welcomed it. I embraced it. I know some attorneys may try to state that, oh, no, I didn't look at any of that. These are all my own ideas. This is, I, as much as I could, and it wasn't much, I had an advantage. My firm is pretty big. We have a big social media group, and they would feed me materials. But once I started to understand this world, Peter, when I came into this, I did not know that there was such a thing as lawyers on YouTube, let alone people as skilled and as experienced as you, Emily Baker, Melanie Little, Ian Runkle. I could go on and on and on. I didn't know it existed, but once I found out it existed, I said to myself, it's another source of information. And I didn't have much time, but I would peek, and sometimes I would do more than peek. So to me, with regard to why I was brought in, which we'll leave in the halls of our team meetings. But I will tell you that, being brought in, really, as you would know and you alluded to earlier, when you try a bunch of cases and you get in on a team and people see, okay, this person has talents maybe beyond what we expected, and you take on maybe an additional role as well. But clearly, with regard to my role, I just wanted to come in and be a contributor to the team and do whatever it was the client and other team members wanted me to do. There were a lot of matters that occurred that weren't expected that I ended up taking on. And I will also say, just because David's too modest to say this, David had some very significant witnesses and roles that, for reasons we can't speak about, never came to fruition. So for David, he was fantastic in that some very significant potential witnesses just didn't come to fruition that he was very much prepared to address.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to tell anybody in my chat the importance of David Yannetti on the team for so many different reasons. And I really think that even, you know, the some of the heavier lift from the first trial to the second trial, it was a very similar style and kind of what he's able to do connecting with the jury. And I think that it's important for the jury to feel like they trust a lawyer, they like a lawyer. That's one of the things I felt like with Yannetti the whole time he would get up and speak. That was something that was always there, and that seemed to come easy and natural from kind of my point of view. David, did you watch anything online or scour social media or have anybody sending you anything that you were saying, well, is this landing? Is that landing? Maybe we edit this. Did you get anything in the background as far as your preparation from anything happening online?
You know, the toughest part, I thought, was that we were inundated with suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, maybe the vast majority of it was obvious stuff that, you know, I mean, we had four, you know, very capable lawyers, hardworking, and a client who, you know, was brilliant herself. You know, we didn't miss much, I didn't think, but occasionally you'd get a nugget that you'd have to say, that's causing me to look at this in a different way. And, you know, I can't say that it didn't, you know, ultimately help us, you know, at certain points, you know, and you know, as Bob said, I can't get into anything confidential behind the scenes other than to be very general that I think in the end it was a plus. But I will say that it also gave me pause to think, you know, maybe there's a needle in a haystack out there that we're just not seeing because we're just bombarded with so much information, you know, and maybe somebody has a really good idea that if we knew about it, we'd implement it. You know, getting the verdict that we did is just like a really good shower. It washes everything away. And at the end of the day, we accomplished what we needed to accomplish. But, you know, if the opposite result had occurred, you know, there might be that lingering doubt in the back of my mind that, you know, boy, we did everything we could to know everything about this case and everybody worked so hard. But maybe if we just checked one more email or one, you know, direct message on Twitter or Facebook or something, we could have come up with something else. I think you always second guess yourself after a loss, but you know, this I think was a big win, and so we were spared that.
Every decision's a good decision when you get a verdict like this. Right? Nobody can second guess anything you guys did. Right. And I promise you, none of that ever happened on this channel. Nobody ever second guessed or thought, maybe they should call this witness. Maybe they shouldn't call this witness. I'm only kidding. Of course, that's kind of what we do, right? And we talk about
we saw plenty of that.
But yep. I just mean, you guys sit back there and you have to talk about and make the decisions in every trial that you think are best for that trial. Regardless of what the witness is, regardless of what the plan was in the beginning. Bob even mentioned it, like David was planning for X, Y, and Z, but trials are living, breathing things, and you have to adapt and you have to make the decision that you feel is best, and you got to live with it. You got to make the decision as a lawyer and move on. You can't second guess it at that point. And if you have a bad verdict or something that doesn't go your way, then you can deal with it on the back end on the debrief. But this almost felt like round one was a huge just mock jury, and the whole world saw it. The whole world had their thoughts about what you guys did, who you called, what questions you asked, and then you got to do it again. And one of the other cool things I thought, and I don't know if you got into this at all, because this is kind of judge specific. There are certain judges that would allow it and certain judges that wouldn't, but you have I'm sure you've had trials where you have the real-time transcript, right? It's, you know, crazy expensive. Did you guys have that in this trial, real-time transcript?
No.
Okay. So it's like, you know, for the audience listening, they're typing down the transcript and you can get it that night or the next morning. You're literally getting it every day. We usually only do it for jury selection, to where we can have the real-time transcript where we can read it as it's going on, especially to keep things in who's raising their hand and who's not. But to have a live stream that you can go home and watch and clip and review and look at, or have law clerks or members at your firm. Did that affect at all, Bob? I'll kind of start with you. Did that affect at all how you guys did things? Did you use any of those live streams? Did you think about clipping it up for a witness, or, how would you, if somebody has a big trial kind of coming up, is that something that's really possible, or does that seem like too convoluted to try and do that while you're prepping other stuff?
Oh, no, it is something that is a tool. And I will tell you another tool apropos to your last question is, to me, the benefit is, let's say, for example, your show. If I've got the opportunity to watch it or a part of it, I may just see, well, okay, Peter Chagos is saying this is landing, right? He thinks it's a good argument, or he thinks this is a good thing. I may agree or disagree, but I'm going to weigh what you say. And I'm going to follow your logic, your analysis, and that's what's going to be important. And apropos to David's point, just to make sure I'm not missing anything for our client, right? So I think this case, at least for me, was very unique in that regard. So, social media, Twitter, etc., but also just folks that do what you do and do it well. That is something that I would check in with every once in a while. And I'm not at all concerned about stating that I did that. There were enough times that I had a different point of view, but at least I considered and weighed it. And there were certainly circumstances where I used or had it affect what I did, how I did it, or when I did it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What about you, David?
So, yeah, I mean, as I said, I think that, there were times where we received some, nuggets of information that made their way into the trial. And, this was also a very different trial from the first one in two ways. One was it was tried completely differently by the prosecution. This is not anything that's, not out in the public sphere, but, Adam Lally, as the lead prosecutor in trial one, called everybody and literally his brother, right? I mean, there was, he called everybody in the house, everybody at the waterfall, everybody. I mean, to the point where there was a lot of repetition, but, there was also, I think, a benefit to that for him. Hank Brennan's strategy in case number two was a lot different. He didn't call, the three people we had identified as potential third-party culprits, and he didn't call the lead investigator in the case. So, I mean, it was a completely different trial in that way. But for us, having been at both trials, it was completely different for us in terms of the firepower or the manpower that we had for trial number two. Trial number one, there was no Bob Alessi, there were no legal interns. It was Alan, Liza, Karen, and me. And there was so much work. We were drinking from a fire hose the entire trial. It was difficult to keep up. The contrast with trial number two, I mean, Bob did a lot of the heavy lifting, as you've noted, in terms of the difficult experts taking on very difficult, brand new topics without a complaint and just doing it marvelously. Like a lot of times the camera caught me and I was fanboying in the courtroom. I was just like looking at Bob like, wow, but in addition to that, we had unbelievable student interns, unbelievable. Sophie, Sophia, Sydney, Evan, Lee, very, very smart, legal interns who just stepped up to the challenge and really supported us and drafted motions, and they were tireless, sometimes working, Bob's hours, which means they were up until 3 a.m, when, I'd probably been sleeping for 3 or 4 hours. So yeah, two different cases. It was a unique experience.
Yeah, and Bob, what's it like dealing with, a prosecutor where maybe you don't necessarily know what's coming, right? I think there were times where maybe we thought certain witnesses might be called or not be called, rebuttal, whatever it may be. But just generally speaking, when prosecutors are kind of keeping you on your toes, what's the prep like throughout the trial and even at night, where sometimes, you got to be prepared for everything, right? You got to be prepared for everything, regardless of what's going to happen, especially a defense attorney. And you have to be reactionary as a defense attorney. So what's that like in a trial where you really don't know what the prosecutor is going to do?
What it's like is you have to be completely knowledgeable of your subject matter going into the trial because of the very points that you put forth. You don't know, is this expert really going to be called? In what order? Who's the next witness, the next expert? And it's all from the jump, right? Because it's the prosecutor's direct case. And in this case, the prosecutor started putting on experts very early. And I think that was a strategy. And fortunately, I had accounted for that, meaning I was prepared on the subject matter. But then that means that, especially when the experts started rolling off one after the other, you had to really be nimble and be ready to move. And then when they got on the stand, not knowing exactly where they're going to go, that to me, again, augurs for just knowing the subject matter as best as you can. With that all said, again, as you know from your experience, they're just things that happen moment to moment with what the expert's saying, how they're saying it. You've got to be knowledgeable of the subject matter, then make split-second decisions. Am I going to come back and still cross this? Okay, now I think I've got to cross additional areas. And then there's just the unknown. It's like, okay, I'm going to start going down this road with this expert. But if I start losing a tooth as I go down the road, time to pivot and to move on. And that's what I love about trials, and I particularly love about experts, is because the game is at such a level that the subject matter requires a certain knowledge to be able to even enter the game with these people who just have been doing this all their life. So this is what I love the most about trial work. I do fact witnesses, but what I love the most are really the experts and all the challenges that they present. And really, the only way to give yourself a chance is just to know the subject matter as best you can.
Yeah, I think
Peter, I would just piggyback on that just to bring up one point that people probably don't know, which is that we had a gentleman's agreement with Hank Brennan during the trial that he would give us the heads up as to which witnesses he would have in the courthouse on any given day. So it wasn't always that he called the witnesses in the order that he said he would, and it wasn't always that he called every witness that he claimed he was going to call. But that is all within bounds. He did identify for us, and we reciprocated when it came time for our case, that both sides had a heads up as to who was in the courthouse. So we appreciated that.
Yeah, and that's pretty common throughout trials. Most judges will enforce that even without a gentleman's agreement. I don't know about this judge, but so Bob, also with the experts and adapting and having to kind of be ready for everything, you made, and I know it was the team, but you were the mouthpiece that made multiple arguments for mistrial. I heard on Runkle's stream that you called and predicted the exact time or something like that of the verdict. Talk to the people a little about what it's like for a defense attorney to pound your fist, be incredibly passionate about something you think is completely unjust that happened in the trial, all while, I'm just going to guess, if you called the time of the verdict, you probably called that you were going to lose these motions for mistrial. What's it like getting up there, making the argument, having a very sound legal and factual argument? What does it feel like, and why do you do it the way that you do?
Well, the short answer is it's all natural. It's whatever I say and however I say it is 100% natural for the moment. I don't in advance say, okay, I'm going to add more theater. I'm going to do less theater. I'm going to just be academic. I go up there and I say to myself in a split second, how can I say this in a manner that's best going to effectuate the objective I have for my client? And so for the mistrial, what is it that I can say that is going to maximize the chance that the mistrial with prejudice is going to be granted? We all know what an extraordinarily high legal threshold that is. I don't think about that at all. I just go up there and say, here's going to be my argument. I don't really think that much about it in advance. I just deliver it, and I try to do it in a logical and hopefully persuasive manner. So when I go up there and I deliver it with the emphasis that I have, if I hit the podium, that is something that is not planned whatsoever. It just comes out. So for me, that's what is going through my head as I'm doing it. And as you know, these things happen spontaneous. It's not like you have a note in front of you. It's not like you've had much chance to think about. I just go up there and deliver it. And the final point on this is I absolutely love practicing law. I love the courtroom. And I really want to try to be authentic and genuine to effectuate the goal of the client. And hopefully most of the time it's in a manner that is in furtherance of that goal.
I think that just gives people such a window into the mind of a real lawyer, right? Like that's how you have to do it. And I've seen people I've coached some mock trial. I don't know if you guys ever have. And when I was on mock trial, we did some of the tryouts, and sometimes people try to emulate or copy other people. And that was one of the best things about watching this team is the three of you specifically, and Eliza Little, we got to see more of that the first trial and maybe some motion arguments. But the three of you had three very different styles, in my opinion. All effective in different ways, but one of you didn't try to be the other. And I think that was amazing. A+ answer. David, with being on for both of these trials, because I've had to retry a case only one time. The hardest thing was for me to remember what happened in the first trial versus the second trial. Sometimes it's like, did this witness come in the first trial, or did they not testify to that in the second trial? Did you have any issues with that? Did the team help, the social media, anything like that?
No, not at all, because we were so well prepared in terms of collecting every bit of information in terms of reports and transcripts of every single witness. It was so well organized. I wish I could tell you who did it. I don't even know. It's just like a chef cooked a beautiful meal for me and put it down in front of me, and I was able to enjoy it. The binders that we had were all set up for us to prepare. And what surprised me, quite frankly, is that you'd think that it would be easier the second time around, but I found it to be almost more difficult because we had the trial transcripts added to all the discovery that we started with. And so now you're dealing with so many more potential inconsistencies. And I found that the examinations, and you could see this from, if you compare the transcripts or compare the videos between the trials, the examinations were different. We came at witnesses in a different way. And I believe that was, at least when I was questioning witnesses, it was intentional because, the witnesses may be thinking that, you're going to come at them in one way. And when you switch it up, it can throw them off their game if they're adverse witnesses. And I think we used that to our advantage.
Yeah. Did you think about that at all when you were going to impeach a witness? It's like, now there's multiple different statements. You got the grand jury, you got trial one, you got maybe a police report with this officer, you got what they've already said on direct. It makes it harder to impeach, right? Did that come into play? Like maybe I don't go down this road, impeach, anything like that?
Yeah, well, you're making decisions like that on the fly, but I will say that every attorney that questioned a witness during this trial had page and even line references for every potential inconsistency. I think this case was prepared phenomenally. I mean, I think that if we lost, it would not have been from lack of preparation or lack of effort or lack of caring. We all put our heart and souls into this case, and I think we can hold our heads high in terms of the work that we did.
It really came out with the presentation too. I mean, the presentation doesn't look that smooth and good if there's not the preparation in the background. Another thing that can be something you can't necessarily plan for, you don't know what's going to happen, is how a judge is going to act throughout any trial. And most of the time, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm on the defense side, it feels like the judge is against me. It feels like I'm, always fighting an uphill battle. Bob, what are some of the things you tell yourself, or that you've practiced? You've been doing this for a long time. What have you felt like is the best way to deal with if you feel like all your objections are getting overruled, or, you're having to battle against some of the judge's decisions too? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, the way I look at it is I analogize to golf, and I'm not a golfer. I tried it. I'm a terrible golfer. I have other sports I think I have some skills in. It's not golf, but I use the analogy, and that is a handicap. Listen, I try cases in different parts of the country, and I'm sure, Peter, you've heard the term localized, right?
Yeah.
Where if you're coming from out of state, you just have to accept the fact that if you're going to go against an attorney who's tries case in that area, the judges are more, they know them, and you're going to get less. And so I go in with that expectation. And I also go in with whatever else happens, right? If it's, I look at it as, okay, that's a +2 handicap for the opponent. Okay, that's a +18 handicap. I'd like to keep the handicap in single digits, but if it's a double-digit handicap, you know what I say? I still got to achieve the result. I still got to win the golf tournament to carry the analogy. So it's like, okay, this is the reality of what I have. You still got to get the job done. And so I look for ways to get the job done. Do I wish I was the one with a +3 handicap? Is the lawyer there? Of course I do. But, that's not the reality. And so I just say, don't whine. Just get up the next day, get up the next moment, and go find a way to get around whatever may be the obstacle. So, that's my perspective. And David heard that from me as I went in. But it's a little easier for me because this was my first trial. David and the team had already gone through trial number 1. So I had a little bit of a more fresh outlook coming in. But that's the way I looked at it in this case. And that's the way I look at it in every single case. The client needs you to get the job done. Find a way.
What about you, David? What do you think? How do you deal with it? And this is not the only trial you felt it. I feel very comfortable saying this couldn't be.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that, Peter. You've probably heard this term. I suffer from it more than most lawyers, I think, and the term is trial psychosis. You go into a trial and it's like going onto the battlefield, and you're fighting for your life, you're fighting for your client's life, and you can develop this psychosis thinking that the judge is against you, and it can alter the way that you argue, because you feel like you're backed into a corner and you've got to slash your way out. So I try to guard against that. I try to take a step back, and I try to realize that I may disagree with the judge, and I'm not talking about this case in particular, I'm just talking in general, because as you've identified, this is not unique to this case at all. But I try to remember that, look, I didn't get this ruling. I think I should have had this ruling, but I've got to move on. I've got to have a short memory. And sure enough, there are other rulings I do get during the trial. And then once the trial's over, the psychosis leaves, and then you can kind of see that, this is not a judge that is just one way or trying to, create an outcome. The judge is trying to do his or her best, I think 99% of the time too. And once again, we come back to, if you win the case, it washes so much away.
Yeah. And speaking of that, and dealing with sometimes when you lose, you feel like you shouldn't lose. I've had trials where I'm calling appellate counsel, like, you got to be ready. This judge just made this decision and she's so wrong. And then as a great verdict, I was like, never mind, calling back. It's like, it's just, that's,
yeah, no, that's right.
I am type A. I am OCD. Everything is just like, preparation is the only thing that calms me down. And when I go into a case, no matter how good the case is or how good the result is, I still have bad days or even bad parts of days. If it's, a 1 week trial where, dealing with that can be potentially the most important part of trial. How did you guys deal with that? I'm sure there were moments where you felt like, crap, that was bad. Maybe it's a day, maybe it's a witness, whatever it may be. Bob, how did you deal with that personally? How do you deal with that generally as a lawyer?
Yeah, you certainly have that. And the way I deal with it is I basically say, Bob, you got to do better. You just got to do better. And do better can be just get up and you don't change anything. But most of the time, it is a change. It's like, okay, you had a plan to go after the witness this way. It didn't work out. You think about it that night. You plan out. You pressure test your own strategy and your own approach, and then you decide that despite if you think it was somebody else's fault, in the end you didn't get the result that you wanted with that witness. So there has to be some kind of a pivot. So what I do after I go through the sort of normal human reaction of first, oh, of course it wasn't me, it was the witness doing bad, it was the judge, it's the opposing attorney. In the end, I'm responsible for making that witness testify truthfully and accurately and in favor of my client. So what I just do is I pivot. I just come back and I pivot. It could be style, it could be substance, it could be both. And I see if that's working. And if the pivot's not working, then I pivot again. But fortunately, many times it's just a slight pivot, and usually that's enough to overcome it. But as an attorney, you have to resist the initial impulse to sort of like say it's not me, and you got to resist that, and you got to come back and you got to say it's got to be something. So you got to make some type of a change. And usually, if you do that and you're honest with yourself as an attorney, it's usually going to work out for you.
That's a really good lesson for myself to take. It's like, it's your job. You do the best you can. We know it's going to happen and you just move on. David, how do you deal with a bad day, witness, whatever you want to take it just throughout a trial? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, it's sort of in a similar fashion, just trying to have a short memory and try to find a way to to get around it, to make it better. I will say that this trial for me was unusual because I didn't feel that way very often in this trial. I really feel like we won most witnesses. And I can say that without bragging because Alan and Bob were doing most of the witnesses. So it's more like in the trials that I do by myself that I would have those, second thoughts. I thought we really tried, a tight case. I don't think we made a ton of mistakes, and I think that contributed to the win.
My dad.
Yeah, I want to jump in for Dave. David had some very, very significant witnesses here that he was wildly successful. I'll give you one example is Lucky. The amount of preparation David put into that. I mean, Lucky testified in trial one. Anyone can make their own comparison as to how it went in trial two. David had the other witnesses that were just flawless. And David has an advantage that few attorneys have. And you alluded to it earlier, Peter. He has endless charm and endless connection with jurors. It's just endless. Everybody loves Yannetti, including jurors. And he just has a way about him. So in addition to being a brilliant attorney, he just has this way about him that, the jurors are going to listen, believe, trust. And you can see it on TV, but you feel it literally in the courtroom.
You're very kind, Bob. Thank you.
Yeah, he's got Riz, as the kids say. He's got.
He's got Riz Plus. Yeah.
Riz Plus. I like that. Me and my dad were joking, like, David, how you said, you really felt confident throughout this whole trial. It's like if we had one of the defenses that you guys had, it felt like you had 10 or 20 different things that could have won the trial individually. In this case, there was just so much to work with as a
Yeah,
defense.
look at Alan's closing with I thought the piling on of the avalanche of reasonable doubt. I think that was it was very effective. We were very fortunate that we had that.
Yeah, I've done the David Letterman top 10 reasonable doubts before, and it's hard to get to 10 a lot of times. Alan must have had 50 in his closing. Were you going to say something, Bob?
I was just going to say that, and it may sound unduly boastful. I think we ran the table on every single witness. I think we ran the table on every witness. I've never been in a trial where you had this many witnesses at this high stake. I think we ran the table on every witness, prosecution as well as ours.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, it was an interesting thing to try to break down as a lawyer on this side, trying to look like, okay, what could the defense have gotten here? What could the Commonwealth have gotten here? I also think with the jury, what I usually, from my experience and a lot of the research I've done, once they start to get to one side or the other, a lot of times they stay there throughout the trial. Have you felt that in trials that you've been in, is once you start with them, it's a lot easier to take them down the road?
Do you want to take that, Bob? Oh, me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I did feel like that. But I will say that, I know you guys probably do the same thing, which is you spend a lot of time the whole day in a courtroom with these 12 people or 18 people in this case, with when the alternates before they were picked. And you're trying to glean from their facial expressions or their reactions who's with you and who's not. And we were able to do that in trial one, I think pretty successfully. This jury was composed of a bunch of poker faces. I mean, I would not want to play poker with them. They were, I think, trying very hard not to give those reactions. So, we had a sense that we were, pulling some jurors with us, but I'm not 100% sure if we were right. I think at the end of the day, they all agreed that's wonderful. But it's certainly not an exact science.
Yeah, I can tell you, Peter, I generally don't spend a lot of time trying to read jurors because I don't have that skill set. I do believe there's an approach to trying a case that will work with bright, reasonable, objective jurors. And for this jury, from the moment we started jury selection, we got the jurors, I knew this was going to be an extraordinarily bright, attentive jury. And so to me, that made things a little bit easier because, I have great faith in the judicial system. I love our system of justice in the United States. And I just figured, go do your job and the jury will go do their job. And there was not one moment through this trial that I had any concern about the jury not assimilating the information, weighing the evidence, and doing what was their job. And in the end, I firmly believe that they did it. And I've said it before, God bless these 12 men and women for the time commitment they put in, the seriousness with which they took their approach. And to lastly comment on what David stated, I did not know where they were headed. And my just gut is there might have been some that might have been against us in the beginning, and we might have brought them around. I don't believe that there were any that were with us that we lost and then had to be brought around, but that could just be my ego and my sense of hope playing. But it was a fabulous jury, and I don't say that just for the result. It's just the way they comported themselves.
Oh, and just to add to that, it was unbelievable how all 12 of them paid attention like 24/7. I don't know that I've ever seen a jury where nobody was like daydreaming or sleepy after lunch or, seemed not to be paying attention. They were laser focused on the witnesses and what was going on in that courtroom. I don't know how you could look at them and not be impressed.
What have you guys thought about? Have you seen the juror interviews at all?
I've just seen snippets. I really haven't. I haven't watched a ton.
Do you have any thoughts on
The same
what
here. I've seen snippets. That's it.
any thoughts on what they thought was important, how they viewed the case, anything like that?
I guess just generally speaking, I thought that they reaffirmed our strategy in this case. I think our decision that was reflected in the opening and closing and really hammered home during all the examinations, just concentrating on whether there was a collision between motor vehicle and pedestrian or not, and taking both sides of that equation and making it plain that they can't prove that there was. In fact, it seems much more likely that there was not. And given the burden of proof that it was on the prosecution to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, it seemed like, from what the little I've heard of juror interviews, that was a good strategy.
What about you, Bob? Any thoughts from the little that you've seen, the snippets that you've seen?
No, and I'm hopeful that I'm going to get some time to listen to the juror interviews. I mean, I'll speak for myself as a trial attorney. I always am thirsting to know what a jury thought, all the way from how did I do to did we land the right evidence? Did I do something right? Did I do something wrong? That's, to me, is just invaluable feedback. We do a bunch of, focus groups, etc. But it's the real jurors that you want to see if it happens. So I'm as interested as anybody in whatever they have to say. I just haven't had the opportunity to do what I am going to do as soon as I can.
What about Michael Morrissey and Hank Brennan? They made statements. The jury has spoken for Morrissey, and then Brennan had a much longer statement. Have you guys been able to see those yet?
Yeah, I have. I did look at the entirety of both of those statements. Yes.
What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, I thought that District Attorney Morrissey's statement, while pithy and maybe even a bit terse, I thought was within the bounds of, what you would find reasonable for a district attorney. I was a bit surprised to see Attorney Brennan make a comment in addition to District Attorney Morrissey. I thought that, District Attorney Morrissey had spoken for that office. And, I will tell you what I wasn't therefore expecting it, but, had I had an expectation that Attorney Brennan was going to make a statement, I would have hoped it would have been, we thank the jurors for their service. It was a long trial and they made sacrifices. I disappointed in it. I wish it would have been different, but I respect it. And I believe that the community should respect it. Something along those lines is what I was expecting. And what was stated was not consonant at all with what I was expecting would be made. So that's my perspective on what those two statements.
What about you, David? On Brennan and Morrissey.
Yeah, I mean, I commented after District Attorney Morrissey issued his statement that was the appropriate way to respond. We all have to have faith in the jury system, and I would argue that the prosecution has to foster that faith and has a duty and responsibility to foster that faith, more than anybody else in the system. So, to the extent that, there's any second guessing of a jury or, comments about why or how they came to their decision when none of us can know that, I don't think that is appropriate.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate too when some of the jurors might start to feel like people are coming after them, if it's lawyers or journalists or reporters or whatever, for doing their duty, or even have you guys seen any of that? I mean, that's got to be that's concerning to me as a trial lawyer, because we've had that happen in a Florida case, and it's just not helpful to the jury system or to our society.
I will say I have
really
seen some lawyers. I'm sorry, David, go ahead.
No. I just said, I was just agreeing with Peter. You go, Bob.
With regard to lawyers and lawyer commentators that have said adverse things about the jury, it's abhorrent. It is absolutely improper in my view. And lawyers, just like prosecutors, they have a special duty in our system to further the system, to further the public confidence. And despite your inner feelings, everybody's entitled to have what's inside their head. But what they speak has to be different. And I am absolutely disappointed. And as an attorney, I find it to be highly improper for those statements to be made. And I really think the attorneys that make those really ought to take a look at whether this is the profession for them and whether they should be participating in this system. Because to me, there's written and unwritten rules of the game, and they're violating both of them when they make those statements.
And that it obviously really offends me as well. And I've spoken about it on Ian Runkle's show, and I sent out a tweet on Sunday morning when I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I don't think I'll be commenting any more on that, other than to say I've made my position clear, which is that the jury is sacrosanct. These are people that are called. They're required to serve. They agree to serve. They take time out of their day, or days, or months in our case, spending all that time. And I think, Peter, you'd agree, I know Bob does, that, generally speaking, they try to do the right thing. They try to be conscientious. And you get, 12 people in there really earnestly upholding the Constitution. And for somebody within the system, be they, a lawyer or a judge or in law enforcement, to criticize a jury's decision when they have no idea what goes on in that jury room and they don't know what the verdict is based on, particularly when it's an acquittal and the burden of proof is so high, to start denigrating the jury, calling them names, making accusations about what they did or didn't do, or, heaven forbid, like investigating their families afterward if they learn their identities. I used the term pornographic before. It's just shocking. It's offensive. It's abhorrent, as Bob said. And I really wish people would just stop.
And this ain't the case for that. I'll just say, anybody that wants to try to pretend like something may have happened back there, they could have picked 50 different reasonable doubts to decide on in this case, just from an outside position. But
we agree.
And then Proctor. That was the most shocking interview to me, the fact that this guy's giving an interview after the trial. Did you see that?
I did not. I didn't see even a snippet of it. I didn't.
Yeah, no, I saw it. I don't really have a comment on it.
It's fair. That's fair. What about the Alberts and the McCabe's? Did you see that one?
I didn't even see a snippet of it. I saw pictures of them sitting together, and I'm probably eventually going to go on to look at that one, but I did not.
So I don't think that I watched the entire interview, but yeah, I saw clips of it, and it's clear they're angry, they're upset. I don't know that they're helping themselves by going on TV and saying what they said, but I don't represent them. That's they have every right to do that. They've got a First Amendment right to speak out, and if that's what they want to do, they're entitled to do it.
So, Bob, and we just talked about the juror intimidation thing. Let me throw this hypothetical at you. People going publicly saying you should think twice. And I'll just tell you, this came from I'm not trying to trick you. I'm just honestly thinking, like, as a lawyer, the McCabe's and Alberts, one of the things they said was, you should think twice about being a witness because, you could be intimidated and this stuff could happen to you, whatever. But in our justice system, how important is it in this case, in every case, right? Every case that you have, witnesses are incredibly important. You see something, you say something. Talk about how important that is to our justice system as well, for people out there listening, that, you know, being a witness is a real thing and a real part of every single trial that should also be protected.
No, I agree. The whole system needs to be protected. Witnesses, lawyers, judges, defendants, prosecutors, but to different degrees. I mean, a prosecutor, lawyer, we go into this voluntarily, right? Witnesses oftentimes do not. And I think there's, though, different speciation, if you will, of witnesses. There's those that sort of thrust themselves in, and there are those who are just innocent and get thrust in. So I think it sometimes depends upon the type of witness and how you became a witness. I might have a different perspective, but overall, they should feel like they can, any potential witness, any person who's not a witness now that may come one, should feel that the system is going to protect them sufficiently so they can come in, do their civic duty, because I think that's what most people want to do without intimidation. But there's a certain subcategory, and I think it's a vast minority of witnesses who do things. And then when they get the understandable attention for it, and sometimes it's not kind attention, for them to then say, whoa, 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 you know, and put up the victim card, I have less concern about those than the types of witnesses that just try to do the right thing, do it in the right way. And my last point is, you know, for those who have the opportunity to go under oath and raise their hand, I think that's the best way to get the truth out and be subject to direct and cross-examination. That's the way our system is built. And for those that, I'll put it in terms of the categories, avoided witnesses, those that, you know, want to avoid being it, but want to come on and still have a platform to talk about it, those I have the least concern about, who end up being witnesses but end up in a trial non-witnesses. In sum, we've got to do everything we can to protect witnesses, because they are essential to the truth coming out and justice being served.
And David, the same thing could be said for defense lawyers, right? You've probably gotten some emails that are not great, but people still have to stand up, be defense lawyers. Doesn't mean it's always going to go perfect, but kind of what I said is, you do the right thing. If you know what the right thing is, you do the right thing. How's it been like dealing with a lot of the backlash that I'm sure you guys have gotten throughout this case?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mentioned before, there are people that hate my guts, and they are not shy about telling me that. I get messages, I get tweets and all that stuff. And, you know, I tried to be very careful about what I said inside the courtroom versus what I said outside the courtroom. I don't think that there was a time when I actually mentioned a name outside the courtroom or maligned anybody outside the courtroom. Inside the courtroom is a different story. You know, you're charged with zealously representing your client. And if that includes pointing the finger elsewhere because you think you're justified in doing it, then you can't be afraid to do that, whatever the backlash. And so, you know, as Bob said, we signed up for this job. You know, it's not all, you know, peaches and cream every time. A lot of times you don't get the positive feedback that was overwhelming for us in this case, and you just get the negative feedback because your client is reviled or the people have judged guilt prior to trial based on the charges. Sometimes just the charge itself, being charged with that, you know, you're automatically deemed as, you know, representing a scumbag, which is so unfair and so perverts the presumption of innocence. So, you know, I mean, in answer to your question, you know, I'm a big boy, and you know, anybody that, you know, wants to take shots at me, you know, you go ahead. If it makes you feel better, get it off your chest. But I sleep very soundly at night because I am doing my job as best I can. I think I'm upholding the Constitution every time I step foot in a courtroom, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue into our last thing. I know you guys have to run. It's been about an hour. What's next for you guys? We would love to hear more from you. I don't know. I've heard rumblings on the internet, on the Twitter sphere, which you can't always believe what you read. But have you guys thought at all about media, podcast on your own, into anything else that you like, whether it's law or something else? Have you guys thought about that with enough encouragement from everybody in the chat? Maybe is that something you would consider? What are your thoughts about what's next? And people want to hear from you guys.
You go, Bob.
I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about that actively. There are some people that might be a little bit ahead of my thinking in that regard, but I am thinking about it. And my first love is the practice of law. And that's what I've got to get back to. I've had wonderfully patient clients who have been gracious in many respects for me to do what I've done. But I feel a special connection with a broader community, even broader than I usually have. And I'm trying not to have this be something that I think I'm bigger than I am, but I do believe that I have a certain platform and maybe even an expectation out there for me to do something. And I just got to figure out whether I can meet those expectations, whether I have the time. And so, that process, I don't usually spend much time thinking about these things before I decide. So I think, in the very near future, I'm going to figure out what it is. And my prediction will be, it will be something I would love to believe that I could be as talented and successful as you are, Peter, but I don't think I can. So I don't think it's going to be, exactly what you do, but I think it may involve something with the public that is not running for public office, but being somewhere in the social media world. But more to come on that, perhaps.
I've seen people in the chat want both of you guys to run for public office. So that's on you guys. Good luck with that. Bob, people would be clamoring and running to whatever it is that you had to say. So you're being too modest and too humble there. I think it would be amazing if I could encourage you at all or help you in any way. My phone is always on. David, what about you? Have you thought about it at all?
Well, in the near term, it's just getting back into court, getting back to my cases. I was in court today for my first post Karen Reed case, and I enjoy it. It's a really fun aspect of the law to go to these different courthouses and see different people. So I enjoy that very much. In the long term, or maybe the not so long term. I would love to take the Bob and Dave show on the road and maybe hook up and do something together if Bob would have me. We were living together for 3 months. We were already good friends before that, but it really cemented our friendship, and don't want to lose touch. I guess we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, let me just affirm, David Yannetti is, if I have anything to do with it, is not going to be more than an arm's length away for a long time. My great hope is that we continue to do things together. He is as top-notch of a human being as he is a lawyer, and I think there's just so much more that the public might want to know about David Yannetti. So I'm hopeful that whatever the ride is, that David Yannetti's in the vehicle.
I love how he calls me David Yannetti. He always gets the full name out there, and it's such a respectful thing, which is in keeping with Bob's personality. And Peter, you're awesome. Even the conversations we've had offline in terms of the help that you've promised. I mean, you have a large following, and it is so well deserved. Love your show. Love you.
Hey, I really
couldn't agree
appreciate
more.
Hey, thank you guys so much for coming on. I mean, you're already off to a great start. That was potentially the greatest tease in YouTube lawyer history there, right? In the maybe distant future, maybe not so distant future, the Bob and Dave show on the road. I'm excited for it. You guys already have a fan in me. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. What's next? I'll definitely be following you guys as well. Hopefully we still can stay in touch. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming on and spending the hour with me.
We loved it.
Thank you. Loved it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, you guys have a good night. Say hello to your families. Enjoy your families.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, bye. Oh, all right. So that's that. They're really easy to talk to, right? Like there's some people that you talk to about certain subjects that can be boring subjects even, right? It can be boring subjects, but some people are just really fun and interesting to talk to. And with those two guys, frankly, you could have hours and hours of information, right? And I really wanted to be respectful about, what they did want to talk about, where they wanted to go, where they didn't want to go. And I really felt like one of the best things for you guys as an audience to be able to hear and listen to is their brains, right? Their brains, their personalities, their thoughts as lawyers. Because while Karen Reed's case felt like a one of one, and it was absolutely a one of one, these guys are lawyers that have lots of clients that use their brains for each and every client to try and get the best result for the client they have. So the principles and strategies and passion that they applied to Karen Reed, well, again, I'm not going to say the biggest trial of their lives, right? Because I don't know what's ahead for them, but one of the biggest trials I've ever heard of in the history of trials, right? As far as the eyes on it. And that's how they handled it. And I truly believe that, with their personalities and the way they talk about this stuff, that's how they represent each and every client they have. Maybe not as many eyes, maybe not as many tweets, maybe not as many likes, maybe doesn't make them as big of a local celebrity as they probably are now, but you can just tell they love it. They're good at it. Their clients are lucky to have them. The price should have gone up. I don't know if it did, but it should go up for these guys. I mean, that's what you get when you hire this type of team. And I think it's just really cool to learn from them. I know that I learned a lot from our conversation. Like, I know that I will apply things we talked about tonight in my practice, in representing my clients, and even on YouTube. And when I go and talk to lawyers handling high profile cases, they give such invaluable insight into what it's like, how to handle it best. And frankly, what's kind of cool about Yannetti's point of view too is, while I still think it was a good result, trial number one, it wasn't the win he wanted, trial number one. And we got to see how it was afterwards and how they rebound and their attitude on the courthouse steps and their attitude between trial one and trial two. And then you see him after trial two when they get, basically almost the perfect result. It's very similar, right? It's not like he hated jury number one and loved jury number two. It's not like he was pounding his chest after one and not the other. So that very similar result tells you, this is what lawyers deal with, right? And lawyers get some good results, some bad results, some indifferent results, right? I don't know if there is an indifferent result for lawyers. Let's run through some of these questions now. Peter, what was your take on Brennan's statement? So I do want to throw this up here for anybody that hasn't seen this statement, so I can give it a read. We got their takes on it, which I know is what you guys really wanted. So I'm glad we were able to get to that. I'm disappointed in the verdict and the fact that we could not achieve justice for John O'Keefe and his family. District Attorney Michael Morrissey appointed me, giving me full discretion to independently assess the case and follow the evidence no matter where it led. After an independent and thorough review of all the evidence, I concluded that the evidence led to one person and only one person. Neither the closed federal investigation, you like how he slipped that in there, nor my independent review led me to identify any other possible suspect or person responsible for the death of John O'Keefe. It's interesting he threw that in there, right? It's kind of like falling on the sword. He's saying, I had my full discretion to do whatever I wanted. He also said it was thorough. Some things that happened with the holes in the sweater, the x-rays, are they there? Are they not there? May lead you. I think Bob Mata from Defense Diary said on Twitter, like, you sure it was thorough? Because those are some pretty big mistakes. Things can happen in trial. You can make mistakes. You can miss things, but thorough investigation should have brought those out. The campaign of intimidation and abuse that has been waged, funded, and promoted in public and on social media is the antithesis of justice. If this type of conduct becomes commonplace, it will threaten the integrity of our judicial system, affecting both victims and the criminally accused. So this was, maybe it's necessary, maybe it's not. I think it's incredibly important to protect witnesses. I think witnesses are an incredible part, an important part, and a backbone of our criminal and civil justice system. We need witnesses. We need eyewitnesses to prove cases. But if somebody wants to make a statement like this, you could make a statement about special prosecutors and how much money they make and whether it's necessary when you have the entire DA's office there and why it was necessary and hiring experts, spending millions of dollars trying a case twice with this much obvious reasonable doubt. Like as lawyers, I'm not throwing shade at Hank Brennan or Michael Morrissey. As lawyers, we know what reasonable doubt is. We know the definition of reasonable doubt. We understand what reasonable doubt looks like. And it was pretty obvious from the jump of this case. And is that how we should handle the justice system? Right? If we see a case like this, should we still prosecute it? Because I would say no, we shouldn't. We cannot condone witness abuse causing participants to worry for their own safety or that of their families. It is my hope that with the verdict, the witnesses and their families will be left alone. The harassment of these innocent victims and family members is deplorable and should never happen again in a case in this Commonwealth. So my other just add on to that would be, then maybe they shouldn't do interviews, right? If they really want to be done. And I think they should be, go off and, if there's an investigation, there's an investigation. If there's not, let them go on and live their life. But doing interviews and asking, it's like me saying, hey guys, I shouldn't have any mean comments. It's like, if I'm going to come on here and I'm going to talk and give you my opinion and go through it, well, I realize I'm putting myself out there and there are going to be some mean comments. I know it's going to come. It is what it is. It's part of life. My heartfelt condolences to the O'Keefe family and faith that over the coming years, they will find peace and closure. And I would agree with that. And H. Law wanted to know Yannetti and Alessi's thoughts about Brennan's statement. We were able to get that. Greetings from Germany. Really loved watching the performance at the highest level. Difficulty unfair. This case should be used to teach trial practice. I agree. I would love it if these guys would. Maybe they do, right? I know they had law clerks that from different colleges. So I'm sure those law clerks learned so much throughout this process. Thank you, Odixia. Pita, I've been waiting for this interview. Me too. And it was really cool to have. I'm curious how lawyers don't show emotion when lies are obvious. Coming from the opposing side is not a skill I could learn. Prayers to all. So all I'll say about that is, whether it's lies, whether it's mistakes, whether it's curveballs, whether it's things they didn't expect, these lawyers dealt with it all through this trial. Miriam, so close. Yay. Yep. And it is here. Thank you, Tahir, for the super sticker. Good evening to all three of you amazing men. I am 31 years old, stay-at-home mom, seriously considering going back to school to major in legal studies. You have inspired me. Lots of love from Rhode Island. We heard from your medical examiner, right? Thank you for the super sticker. Peter, I'm so happy and excited for you. You deserve this. Thank you so much. Not sure I deserve it, but I love it, man. I love learning. I feel like I learned a lot today. John, the camera's doing the weird thing again. Oh, really? That's it? I don't think that's it, John. But anyways, I was so worried I wasn't going to go through Karen Reed trial withdrawal, including Peter's recaps. I'm so grateful for Peter and these brilliant attorneys who have as much as my heart as they do have my brains. We still have a couple things left on this case and this trial. So it's not fully over yet. On Runkle's interview, we got a teaser that there's evidence of where John O'Keefe did pass, but Judge C didn't allow. Legally, can either of you tell us more? This was not something necessarily we wanted to go into in the interview tonight. Super chats for support. I'm sure Peter has his questions ready. Tons. And I appreciate you guys for sending me your questions as well. I tried to work in as many as I could. First super chat. Love watching all three of you. Thanks for all you have done and all I have learned over the past few months from Central Illinois. It's wild how all over the country this is. This judge gave you a run for your money like none other. How did you remain calm when it appeared so many rulings were against you? Not all heroes wear capes. It was a blessing watching you guys. Yeah. And they talked about how you deal with a difficult judge, how you deal with you feel like you lost an argument you shouldn't have or a witness you shouldn't have, and you just pivot and you do better. I love that advice, frankly. So excited for this conversation. Great job, Peter. Thank you so much. It's easy to sit here and just ask questions. I felt like these are the easiest streams in the world for me, right? I'm not even have to react or give my opinion on anything. I love it. Christy, did the team feel like Judge Bev liked Mr. Alessi and Ms. Little the most out of the defense team, like the chat often felt? I'm sure there were at times for them where it felt more difficult for one of them than others on certain days. I love tacos. Thanks for gifting 5 memberships. This is my first super chat. I love the dream team and Pita. You are all the best lawyers. Yeah, it was quite a team, man. Quite a team. Olivia, I have watched this trial 2 times since day one. I'm from Florida, and I love you guys and the awesome job you did for justice. Mr. Alessi, a big thank you. Being selfless isn't very common these days. You could just tell how much these 2 guys wanted to build up the other, right? And I don't know, there's no better teamwork than that. Leslie, I think I speak for all the others in the chat. Will AmpBev be looked at as a result of this trial? It has to be hard to mount the defense against the Commonwealth and the judge, but the dream team did it. Most lawyers, guys, are not going to lambaste judges, especially when they're practicing in front of them, and nor should they, right? And I know people get on to me a lot about it. I'll call when I think she makes a bad decision, especially if you compare two. If one seems too slanted toward one side or the other, it's probably as far as I'm going to go. I know it doesn't make people real happy, but curious to know if Yannetti watched the first trial, watched it back. That would have been an interesting question. What was one of the more difficult things you had to deal with during the trial other than the apparent bias by Judge Cannoni? I know from my conversations with them and maybe the discussion with Ian and from some of what they thought tonight, it was just constantly being prepared for everything and the amount of work to stay on top of everything. Can you discuss anything about Easter's report? They did not want to get into anything like that. Michael Easter, who didn't testify, watches lawyer, shut up. I don't know why and that's not being like some kind of false humility. Every time somebody tells me something like that, I'm like, seriously? Because I still think it's just like, I don't know, just people who are interested in true crime watching. The lawyers we loved. Lisa, thanks for gifting 5 memberships. Was there ever discussion about trying to obtain actual Google server data to confirm 2:27 a.m. search? So we didn't get too much into like the strategy in the background, the decisions they were making, the conversations they had with Karen Reed, obviously because a lot of those are confidential and privileged. I tried to get into and just pick their brain as much as possible about how they look at trials, how they try cases, what's important to them, how you deal with difficult times, the highs and the lows, and really importantly, just the social media aspect. I was really interested in that. Try to keep it to hours. Yep, I think we were right around an hour. RA and DY would look good in a lawyer t-shirt. We'll definitely have to send them some merch if they're interested. The one thing I will never do is just randomly send people merch, assuming they would want it. That's cringy to me. My 3 favorite people, thank you so much. Thanks, Christy. We asked to have Alan Jackson on next. Would love to. I mean, I just love learning, right? And these lawyers did such a great job and we're part of such a great team. I feel like I can learn so much from them, frankly. Would love to continue it. Nancy, and I hope to talk to David and Bob again. If they really do start to do this, which I really think they should, I think it would be incredibly interesting and fun. From my perspective, maybe we can connect again. Never thought I'd be fangirling over lawyers, but here I am, all giddy like a kid in a candy store. Trust me, we lawyers never would expect anybody to fangirl or fanboy over us being lawyers. At least I should say I never expected it. What are their thoughts on Brennan's statement? Did Bob think Hank deliberately mispronounced his name? Maybe that's the way the prosecutor says it versus the way a defense attorney says it. And we got their take on Brennan's statement. Do you know if and when the sidebar transcripts for both of the trials will be unsealed, or would you be willing to consider requesting this for transparency? Many of us would love to read them. Yeah, I don't know the answer to this. I don't know the answer to this. Alessi studied to be a pharmacist. What made him decide to go to law school? So his answer throughout has been he loves the law. It's his first love. He loves digging in. And to me, it seems like the law is a really cool opportunity as a job to become an expert in so many different things. I don't know if that pharmacy is like that. I don't think it is from the pharmacists I know, but I think he's right where he should be. Can't wait for the Alessi podcast. We need a word of the day. Did he use speciation? Did he use that in the video today? Speciation. It's amazing. There had to be a counter today for that. Key cycle 1162 was MSP, not Karen. I know why they couldn't bring it up, but we want it out here. So I know, regardless of what we talked about on this video, I know Alessi said something in another, comment like outside the courtroom that we know a lot. And one thing I did want to ask them, I didn't get to it was, but I mean, I know what they would have said. It's lawyers handling the case always know so much more than the public knows. We know so much more than what comes out at trial. And usually that's not a lot that we can talk about, but there's no doubt in my mind they know so much more than we know publicly. Nothing beats Alessi's passion when arguing for a dismissal with prejudice, tears, and goosebumps for me. I just want to say thank you. These 3 gentlemen on the screen are some of the best portrayals of what being a good person is. God bless you all. I think I can speak for them when I say that's more important than being a good lawyer for all 3 of us. And I hope that never changes for myself because it can be easy to have your attention diverted, right? Midnight here. I've waited up to see this live. I'm glad you did. What moment did it feel like they had won? Thank you. It sounded like they felt like they were going to win the entire trial. What was one thing the prosecution did that surprised you? If I had to guess, maybe some of the witnesses they did call or didn't call. That's just a complete guess. We know Mr. Alessi watched LawTube, but based on Hank Brennan's questions, do you think he also kept up with LawTube? I have no idea. Curious to know if Alessi saw the first trial. I didn't get to ask that. That would have been interesting. I'm sure he read the transcript at the very least. Everybody loves Yannetti. Huge congrats to Alessi, Yannetti, and the whole team. Your perseverance, skill, and commitment to justice have been inspiring. Thank you for showing what true advocacy looks like. Free Karen Reed. As watchers, we've all been invested in this for a few years. So happy with the result. I assume we can't be specific. You picked up on that. But you guys are amazing. How difficult was it dealing with two prosecutors, one by you and one behind the bench? The case you guys presented was amazing. Yeah, I think they gave a really good answer to that. 3 professionals I truly admire. Thank you, Max Sauce. Question as a journalist following this for over a year. How do you both feel the local media handled this? What could have been better? 3 men who instilled my faith that good men still exist. Love Peter Alessi and the boss. Totally hot for Yannetti. Thank you all for leading with grace and dignity. The very best. Congratulations on freeing Karen. What 2/3 rulings by Bev were the most frustrating? Can we get her investigated to prevent this again? And are you appealing the OUI? We'll find out if they're appealing the OUI. I know that that's not something they were going to want to get into. And that's just not any lawyer usually wants to get into that about a judge. Please ask them what they think about how the jurors are being treated. I don't know if my AC shut off or something. I got to take this sweatshirt off. Oh my gosh. Oh, this feels much better. What they thought about the jurors being treated. We were able to get that one in. Yeah, I was reading these questions as we were going and trying to get as many in as I could. Hey guys, if Paul starts at 1164, Fairview trip, and 1159, 1162, AJ nailed this in trial 1. Why wasn't it raised at all in trial 2? So again, another thing they really didn't want to get into is too much of their strategy discussions. Also, a lot of that included Karen Reed, the client. So got as much as we could. So many would say I was cool until Yannetti started crying. What was in your heart when it finally ended? I know Ian dug into that a lot. And I also tried not to repeat a ton of what Ian got because you guys can all go check that out on his channel. Comment, fun moment. Did everybody hit the like button? I hope everybody hit the like button. And I hope everybody's subscribed that's watching. Comment, fun moment, Judge. Mr. Yannetti, no more, of course, Mr. Yannetti. Of course, Your Honor. The one time I saw Bev crack up, that was amazing. These guys are legends. Congratulations, Mr. Yannetti and Mr. Alessi. Karen Reed is free. Court Junkie, thank you, Peter. I love this. Nothing more to say than God is good. Thankful justice was served. Thank you so much. Hi, Bob and David. Who was your favorite witness to cross? I think that Bob would have a struggle picking one. He seems to have fun with all of them. I'd love to know more about Karen Reed. I hope she's finally getting some rest and finally mourning healing. Whatever that looks like, doing her best. She is inspirational, and I admire her courage. Thank you, Peter, Alessi, and Yannetti. Ryan Nagel et al. Wasn't asked to identify Karen as the woman he saw in the car by Brennan. Why not? So, I mean, they might have a guess, but why Brennan did what he did is hard for other lawyers to do anything more than guess. British lass here, where there is zero transparency. I know so much about U.S. law, but I don't even know my own rights here. How was the television televisation of the trial helped, hindered practice and conduct? So they answered that a ton, but I want everybody else. Chronic shock. I appreciate this comment. Everybody in America, be thankful for your blessings, right? And the fact that we do get this and we can learn about our justice system and our rights. I don't know what that was. How do you feel about the Commonwealth's comment made today? We did get their take on that. Everyone loves David Yannetti, Alessi. I think those are the words I remember, and it's true. I'm a big fan of you too, Alessi. Does Mr. Yannetti still have work with Bev on other cases? How is that? If yes, I'm pretty sure he has to practice in front of her with where his offices are. What are your thoughts on Hank Brennan's statement? I'm really glad we got this because I saw a lot of you had that question. Thank you for all your hard work to free Karen Reed. This is just mind-blowing right now. Favorite moment of trial 2, excluding the not guilty verdict? I'm sure the not guilty verdict would be both of their answers to that. What do you guys think their favorite moments were? John, Alessi, awesome you are here. What specific evidence or insight initially convinced you to join Karen Reed's team pro bono, given your background in environmental and financial law rather than criminal defense? So the last part of this, I will tell, I joked with Yannetti or with Alessi we had a phone call earlier and we've talked a little bit and he kind of laughed. He's like, he was almost surprised or taken aback that people would think that people that practice civil law don't know anything about criminal or couldn't possibly have some experience in criminal law before doing civil or doing both. So yeah, you hit that on the head and I think he would laugh at that. Famous words, Yannetti, of course, Your Honor. That was the best. Mr. Alessi, what was your favorite got you moment during your crosses? Thank you, Dream Team. I have loved watching your knowledge, talent, and hard work. Thank you, Joe, for the super sticker here. How disappointed were you in the result of the first trial? How did it prepare you for this trial? I think disappointment, but as he said, Yannetti said, like all of it comes washed right off after you get this verdict. So he probably doesn't think about it much because of the verdict they got. I love seeing the LawTube creators supporting each other. This is how it should be. This is how it should be, in my opinion. And I will do my best to not ever badmouth anybody else, just trying to do their best, talking about this stuff, teaching, helping people learn about this stuff, and hopefully pushing people to be better human beings and give a positive thought to lawyers. I want a Yannetti, Alessi, Alan Jackson superhero poster for my wall. I've seen thousands of federal cases. Dad's a judge, and you three are truly the best of the best. Lawyer, you know, bringing on Yannetti and Alessi is the legal drama crossover I didn't know I needed. My brain. This is high-level legal discourse. My heart. Should I be taking notes or planning a fan club? I just love talking shop with these guys. I literally could have talked to them for probably 5 hours. And it's just really cool to be able to share experiences and ask questions. And I hope it's not the last time we do it. So excited for this. Lots of love from New Hampshire. If I ever get it framed, I knew who to call. Just kidding, but not really. 3 of the best lawyers ever, all in one place. Be still my heart. Do you guys watch Peter during trial or others? I know that Alessi said that he caught some snippets once in a while when he had a second. And I think maybe they had teams or people watching. It sounds like maybe they got some clips from a lot of the lawyers doing this on YouTube. They've mentioned a lot. I'm sure they left people out unintentionally that they watch as well. It seems like they were doing their research, which frankly, they should. Nicole, and it's tough maybe for them to have time with the hours and hours and hours of information that's out there. But Alessi, have you ever done theater? Watching you with the witness and the judge was always so entertaining. So he definitely said it came natural to him, which I found, interesting and telling. Defense and family law attorney in Virginia. Karen Reed said, you guys know who did it. Do you? Yes or no is okay. Was it strategic to let her talk to the media? Taboo, but put my client on the stand and won a grand jury, LOL. So Yannetti talked about how he's careful with what he says in the courtroom and out of the courtroom. I think this would probably apply to that. Best moment and worst moment before the verdict. Thank you both for your dedication to free Karen Reed. What were the thoughts of the rulings regarding the expert witnesses where yours were overly qualified but nearly disallowed? I mean, they just talked about what it was like to deal with, adversity in trial. It's not unlike adversity in life at whatever job it is you have, right? Lawyers have to deal with it too. Theirs, everybody got to watch and comment on. That's the big difference. Congrats, Mr. Yannetti and Alessi. A fun little fact, read Robert, Elizabeth, Alan, David. I haven't seen that yet. Kevin, question for Mr. Alessi. Bill Walsh tailored the West Coast offense using boxing methodology. This is going to go way over my head. Do you utilize the same boxing philosophy in your approach to direct and cross of witnesses and experts? I think he did say boxing helps him, prepare and be a lawyer for, the battle and jockeying with witnesses. Those moments where Alessi pounded the podium after Brennan shredded the sweater, questions made me tear up. It felt almost spiritual watching Alessi battle for the truth. Every one of the lawyers had moments in this trial where if you ever wondered whether they were genuine or not, those worries went away. Can we have Bob end with a motion to dismiss this episode? We want to hear it one last time. Well, if he ever gets another camera in front of him, I'm sure you'll get to hear it. How do you feel about Court TV still misrepresenting this case? They basically said they were used to all angles, everything coming out social media, good, bad, indifferent, agreeing with them, disagreeing with them, and they were able to deal with it. Why isn't this death explained completely by the dog plus a cover-up? Drunk man stumbles in the wrong door, glass in the right hand, dog attack, struggle, glass hits the face, falls back, hits head, body move to cover civil case. So number one, these guys didn't have to prove that, can't prove that, are not law enforcement. They're not the DA's office. The investigation was flawed from day one, which made it just so difficult for anybody to prove beyond a reasonable doubt what actually happened. That's the issue. Thank you, Kelly. Annie, can we have one last Alessi word of the day? You got 50 in this one, 50. Love all 3 of you guys. You are awesome men. Thank you. Jen, wanted to say thank you, Mr. Yannetti and Alessi, for being the stand-up, good-hearted men you are, as is Peter always. Any of us could be in Karen's shoes. I'm grateful and have so much admiration for you both. Love from Texas. And what I'll also say is, yes, they did this for Karen Reed. Yes, they helped Karen Reed. Yes, Karen Reed was their client. But anytime something happens like this where the world is watching and all the eyes are on it, it affects justice everywhere. And that's what's so important about all this and watching it and studying it and being a part of it is it's not just Karen Reed. It's not just Karen Reed. It is Karen Reed. And I don't mean to belittle that part of it, obviously, but it really affects justice everywhere and helps lawyers everywhere and judges. I'm telling you right now, judges have reached out to me as well. They watch this stuff. And we're going to hear from a judge on Thursday. That's a retired judge from Massachusetts, and they're watching and they're keeping notes and they're learning as well. Okay. Mountain Mama, the Free Karen Reed movement fell in love with the legal system. As a content creator, I watched the trial live on TikTok with people from all over the world. How are we supposed to move on with our lives now? Hey, there's a lot to still learn from. Yannetti, Alessi, and Jackson are the best lawyers. Mary, EDB's chat. Oh no, I bet Alessi saw the Crash Daddy stuff. Hey, you never know. You put it out there, you never know. They may see it. That's that funny thing about the internet. Thank you, Mr. Alessi and Yannetti, for saving Karen Reed's wrongfully conviction and for shining the light on wrongful conviction. Thank you, Peter, too. Free Jamie Snow. Ice Goal. It felt like I was waiting for a rock concert. I've followed both trials and countless reviews with great interest. At 44, I've started my master's program. That's awesome. Congratulations. In forensic science, specializing in crime prevention and analysis. Greetings, love, and respect from Istanbul. Charlotte, my heroes used to be a rock star and now they are lawyers. So much respect for all three of you. My heroes used to be a rock star and now they're lawyers. So much respect. Thank you. Thank you, Strains Credulity. OMG History, so glad for you. Thank you. John, David or Bob, based on your analysis of the case evidence, what is the most critical piece of information or testimony that you believe undermines the prosecution's narrative of guilt? So Yannetti said no collision. From the taillight side, from the arm side, no collision was the most important piece. That's why they focused on it. Did any questions brought up help them know how the jurors might be thinking? So Alessi mentioned that he was able to watch and see on social media how things work to see how it was landing. And I think that kind of answers the question. Any response to Brennan's statement? They answered that one. What did the Alessinator think when Cannoni asked him if he Googled about the law? I don't remember that specifically. That's funny, though. My dad went to law school on a boxing scholarship, 1954. So this is the closest thing I've ever seen to Johnny Utah getting a football scholarship to law school. So it actually happens, Dorothy J, because I always called BS on that movie. Would Yannetti ever do a meet and greet if a fan traveled to him, a Canadian fan? Hey, you have to ask him that one. The Turtle, we are blessed to see Karen acquitted. We are blessed learning from you gentlemen. Thank you. Has either Bob or David ever encountered a judge with similar manners to Judge Bev? They mentioned we deal with this type of stuff in a lot of different cases from a lot of different judges. Love you both so much. Was in awe of the work you did on this case. And it felt like if she was convicted, it was a terrifying outlook for any of us and the justice system as a whole. Freed Karen Reed. 3 classy, intelligent, caring, dedicated, and honorable men whom I have the deep respect for. And yes, an absolute delight and a pleasure to look at. You are each a blessing. Missing AJ and Liza and Peter's dad. Bravo. Michelle, I would like to know if they got a laugh from Baby AI and the funny TikTok sketches. I bet they never expected to be turned into Baby AI. That's a great question. If I had a lot more time, I would have liked to get into some of the funny stuff. Joy, David and Bob, you're both the best. Any thoughts you could share on Judge Bev? So they did talk about what it's like dealing with difficult judges. It's about as much as we were going to get. Hospice. There must be an emerging social media professional role who collates information in high-profile trials. Alessi mentioned his firm has that. We use it. Our paralegals and some of our associates do it for our firm. What can the public reasonably expect regarding getting the sidebar transcripts unsealed? When and how might that occur? Sent with so much heartfelt respect and admiration. We'll definitely have to follow up on that. Without disclosing too much, was there ever a time when the team was legit concerned that AJ would be subject to sanctions, throw off the case due to grave concerns of Judge Cannoni? Thank you for all your hard work, restoring some faith in the Massachusetts justice systems for me. I think these guys would fight it like heck, no matter what they thought the outcome was going to be. Got to ask for my girl, do you know about Sleuthy Goosey and did you see her spreadsheets? That is a great question for them. I wish I would have asked that. Love to Bob, David, and Alan Jackson, including Liza Little. Karen Reed would make an awesome attorney. Love to all your supported. As a funeral director with 110 years in my family, I can confidently say it would be extremely rare as a coroner to sign a death certificate with undetermined as a manner of death. I have seen it before. Do you consider online chatter when deciding to either call or not call a proctor? They said they took some of the nuggets. They considered it. We didn't get too deep into the strategy discussions they had behind closed doors. God bless you, gents. You're in my prayers. I have no doubt God selected you for this moment. Thank you for spending time with us and PETA tonight. Did the alternate juror stay on the case? It's an interesting question. That is a good question. Every piece of reasonable doubt is not the same value, making it more of a subjective, qualitative assessment by the jury than a measurable quantity. For Alessi, fun crossing Burgess about the CV. Oh, I bet he just loved that. Alessi arrives with his $500 word, been missing them. I've become less intellectually challenged without the words. I feel that. If possible, may I ask the name of the framed picture behind Yannetti on his lower left, the one with the face? Sorry, thank you, you three the best. I wish I would have got to that one. I'm sure he could have answered that. Thank you, gentlemen, for talking with Peter. Yes, I'm very appreciative of that. Ask about not being able to discuss ARCA in opening. Bob, you have an incredible vocabulary. What did you read? Did you go to a Jesuit high school? These are all great questions if they have a podcast, right? I mean, these will all be great to really dig into their backgrounds when they have unlimited time to discuss it. If y'all ever need deck presentation designers, hit me up. Fangirling this live like no other. It has been said that Hank Brennan tried this case more as a defense attorney than a prosecutor, and that hurt the Commonwealth's case. What's your take on his strategy? Well, Yannetti definitely compared and contrasted his strategy with Lally. Lally's a prosecutor. Brennan's a defense attorney. You can probably garner some from that. Did the prosecution strategy this time trip you guys up at all? I felt so disjointed for us at the beginning. They said they were ready for whatever, but they were definitely prepared for a lot of things that didn't happen. Now, that could be witnesses they didn't call or that the prosecutor didn't call. What do they think of Brennan seemingly basing his closing on defense's closing from last trial? Well, they certainly didn't on the defense side. And Yannetti even said, started, proved in the middle of the case, and finished with reasonable doubt as far as that collision goes, which was very different than the first trial. I know we didn't get too far into strategy, okay? Big time strategy change between the first trial and the second. I literally thought Bob was 25 and brought on because he was some kind of genius savant. Yeah, when I heard they were 67 and 62, I was like, shut up. There's just no way. There's just no way. Hello, congratulations. Have you seen any of the Alberts Proctor's interviews? What do you think? Very happy for Karen. We got some of their comments on there. We got some of their comments on what they thought of that. Karen was smart, gorgeous, and had a lot of class. I wish I had friends as intelligent of the three of you. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, you do. You got to come hang out with us here tonight, right? Did Microdot's video provide useful tools for you? It's a good question. I would love to heart B&D's feeling of punishing defendants with millions of legal fees and loss of their lives. I don't get what that means. That was probably some kind of cut, but listen, criminal defense attorneys are used to it. I'm curious how it felt to them when their experts were on the stand and were treated so disrespectfully. Many of us felt secondhand embarrassment. I think you could tell, especially when they talked about Lucky Laughlin, the difference between his testimony trial 1 and trial 2, that they prepared these witnesses big time. Any testimony during cross that surprised you? Ben, Bob, how has your background prepared you for examining experts? Have you done patent law? Do you have engineering or technical experience? Congrats to both of you. So in our conversation, kind of off the record, I believe he did say he does patent law. He does a lot of complex civil cases. It's on his website. You can see it. It makes sense that he would have this type of background. Alessi demands our attention. In the end, don't you think your experts having to go through the voir dire process prepared them much more than their witnesses? I believe this strategy on the Commonwealth backfired. That's an interesting take. On JSTV, Mike Easter said he watches you. I mean, I'll have to check that out. Somebody sent me the clip. That's crazy. That's cool. What was I really thought he should have been called, and I would have loved to hear him because I think he would have just torn this apart. What was the best word delivery of the whole trial? Speciation, to me, is a word I'm probably going to have to Google to make sure I have the proper understanding about it and then use it. What was Dr. LaPosada like? She seemed amazing. I was there Wednesday, and it was super experience. Can't explain. What do you all think of the way Juror 11 is being harassed? Fits in with the wild witness statute, and she should be protected. They did talk about that. I'm a little behind, but I heard David say the cool of the evening, so I pretty much got what I came here for. I mean, did the two of these guys put on their personality or what? It's just who they are. Bob, did you take physics? It seemed the Commonwealth's experts were combative and defense team. Have you experienced this before? And how did you combat that in real time? My guess would be they've absolutely experienced it before. And it seemed like the jurors picked up on that. Taylor, in a case with so much the defendant can use, where do you draw the line between proving your client did not do it and also leaving the jury debating your theory and the prosecution? I think he answered that when he said They stuck to no collision and reasonable doubt. And I think that's them simplifying it as much as they possibly could. Thank you, Vincent, for the super sticker and for gifting 10 memberships. Cheryl, thoughts about the juror post-trial interviews? We got some. Alessi hadn't watched all of them yet. So when approaching the witness, how do you keep yourself calm, asking questions, not rushing to the aha moment? I was amazed by how methodical you guys could be. To me, their answer to that was preparation. Preparation. Don't forget to leave your DNA on the like button. Yes, please do. This is what I love about Alessi. He's dramatic, but he's earnest. And that makes all the difference. It's just how he is. And I think it's how he really feels about each individual thing he's talking about. Thank you, Peter. What a great interview. Well done. I appreciate it. I'm sure there are going to be people who said I talked too much, people who said I talked too little, who said I interrupted them. I know. I think these guys are awesome. I enjoyed learning from them myself. I hope that they enjoyed it. I'll reach out to them afterwards and just thank them again because, they've been generous with their time. Noel, Alessi, as someone with a very finely tuned neurospicy justice radar, I want to thank you for being a person that in that courtroom who consistently soothed my "this is wrong and I must throw a chair" reflex. Question, was there a conscious effort from the defense team to use more visuals for the jury to understand expert testimony? I think we saw more of that this case. It was fun to watch y'all kick the Commonwealth's arse. Thank you. This trial was perfect no matter how much we wanted the big three on the stand. They felt the same way. I mean, I have not heard a lot of attorneys. I will tell you, I don't think they were blowing smoke. I have not heard a lot of attorneys say they think they won every single witness from beginning to end. And they said it. Have you ever had a client as knowledgeable and involved as Karen? I've heard, I think, Jackson say no to that answer. Can we please get Yannetti on a Law and Order episode? Have your people talk to his people stat? That would be epic. You have to be able to win in spite of the refs. That's a good point. Bob, how did you end up joining the Dream Team? Were you recruited? Did you and David know each other prior? Did you reach out to the team and offer your own skills? I think they talked about this on Runkle. I'm not positive. Please explain what it means. The case is sealed. It means that the public can't get it with like a public records request under normal circumstances unless they unseal it. Tahir, I'm going to cry. This is like the most amazing thing to ever happen on this app. I don't know about that, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you feeling that way too. Alessi is not an expert in golf handicaps. He was going the other way, the plus, he was going minus, but hey, we got what he meant, right? They had to give strokes. Any reaction to Hank Brennan's press release? Yes, they had a reaction. We were able to go over that. Alessi, did you ever look at Yannetti, Jackson, or Little and ask them how the heck they are able to do this a second time? Thank you for your service. I feel like Alessi would be like, let's ride. If they had to do it again, we ride at dawn. Love hearing how the trial was for you all. I do too. Octavio, I'm calling all three of you when I need a lawyer. Edward, has there ever been another high-profile case where there were so many supporters for the accused? My guess would be yes, but I don't know if there's a non-celebrity one. What did Bob David think of some of the screen names that sprung up daily? That's funny. Yeah, I wasn't able to get too much into like the funniness of everything that happened through the trial. Thank you, Peta. If time permits, how did David react when he first saw Proctor's text saying, "I hate him, I hate him, I hate him"? My guess is he laughed. Some kind of smile would be my guess. With Yannetti, maybe we see some dimples. Do they think Auntie Bev watched LobTube? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that answer. If you can touch it, you can catch it. Ain't that the truth? That's what I tell my son. It's like, did it touch your fingertips? Then you should have caught it. Please ask Yannetti how Yannetti got Alan Jackson onto the team. That's interesting. I don't know the answer to that. Emily, EDB was in the chat. I saw that. Thank you so much, Emily. She's the best. And I know they watched her. They mentioned it. Thank you for gifting memberships, Emily. Emily's the what is it? I don't want to be offensive when I say something like that. I was going to say like the big fish, to try to get on and talk about this case. I really want to talk with Emily about it. The judge's sword of Damocles regarding ARCA communications that still hangs over Jackson's head. What do you predict will happen with that? Not much. Thoughts on narcissist Hank Brennan's comments? They did get into that. Sherry, thank you for this channel. Thank you for teaching us. You all are such honorable men. Thank you for teaching us and showing justice. I look forward to my next jury summons. And this is what I love to hear. You guys going out there, being the best jurors you can, the fairest, most impartial, you probably can. Listen to the case, try to understand the burden, and try to make the best decision you can and live with it afterwards. Did David and Bob know how big this case was? I definitely think they did after trial one. He looks like a guy who you could grab a beer with. Oh, I bet they could. Riz Plus. Yeah, that might be my favorite one that Alessi brought out. When he said Alan, I was like, who? Oh, AJ, LOL. David, have you ever tried other cases in front of Bev? And was she always this difficult? Because people say she's usually pro-defense. What's your experience? I'm pretty sure he's had cases in the past and probably will in the future with her being in that jurisdiction. It's not uncommon you cross paths with the same judges. 37K watching. I want to see 37K likes. Yeah, everybody hit that like button. Wow, Crash Daddy as handsome. It was Crash Daddy as handsome in person. They'd probably say yes to that. Tina, thank you so much for gifting these memberships. John O'Rourke, I wish I would have read this to them because they probably would have thought it was interesting. From someone who thought Karen Reed was guilty, congrats on the W, 100%. So what's next for Mr. Bob and Mr. David? Nice work, fellas. There were some people that were able to have a discussion that thought Karen Reed did it, but also John said he understood the reasonable doubt aspect, and it was cool to have that perspective as well. What's next? I'm hoping a podcast. I'll encourage them. You guys don't bombard them or bother them, but encourage them, for whatever it is they end up wanting to talk about. I would love to know what made each of you decide to go into law. If you had to go back and choose differently, what other field would you see yourself in? Don't forget to tell Peter, no, we're not going to finish it, Mags. You almost got me. Awesome team for Karen Reed. Came in with an open mind. Y'all are tremendous legal minds. Your passion for your client hit home very loud. Bob is going to give Scotty Scheffler 50 strokes as a plus 58. He'd probably need to give him more than 50. Maybe us three as a scramble could give him 50. Watching this trial almost makes me regret deciding not to go to law school. What an amazing trial. It is fun, but honestly, it's very stressful. Very, very stressful. I'd love to know the extent to which LawTube's chats like this one informed your strategies and actions during the trial. I think I could say they watched it, they considered it. I've talked to, because Yannetti mentioned this, but I've also talked to some Florida lawyers who have tried high-profile, big-time social media cases or are about to, and they do say one of the difficult things is sifting through it all, parsing out what's important and what's not. If Alessi is 67, am I even alive? That's a good one. Danica, you all are the best. Any thoughts, advice you learned from this case on how to handle situations, suspected obvious police bias or shoddy investigations? Lawyer myself, looking for guidance from the clear masters. This is a great question. This is one they should save. They could do a whole podcast episode on it. What a treat to listen to you three. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thankful and tipping my hat to all of the Karen Reed team. Well done. Absolutely. Peter, do you think anti-Bev was biased towards the Commonwealth? Yes, but like a lot of judges lean toward the prosecution side. So it's not really that uncommon for us to deal with. There were some overly terrible decisions, I would say, that she made. They also violate innocent until proven guilty. Some do. Had my husband guess your ages after listening to Runkle. He put Yannetti at 45, Alessi at 44. Shocked you guys are in your 60s. I think I told him I thought they were, 40s, late 40s, early 50s was my guess too. Courtney with a K, the attorneys and judges who are speaking poorly about the jurors need to be reported. They are a disgrace to the justice system. So they had some comments to say about that. And Yannetti's fired off a tweet one morning. So if you want to know, go check it out. Nobody likes a sore loser. Mr. Yannetti, are objections with no grounds common there or just in this trial? Mr. Alessi, how many hours did you prepare for experts you cross-examined? I think we can bet a lot of hours. We need Massachusetts to seek justice for the M of Officer John O'Keefe. There is an unsolved homicide, and that's a shame. Alessi made a comment about that. At some point, that's, just kind of a quick snippet. Andrea, thanks for hanging. Everybody, check out my conversation with Andrea earlier today. Really cool context even before this one. So check that out. And thank you, Andrea, for gifting the memberships. Ask Bob what Proctor said. I feel like these two could legitimately harm people with their kindness. Congratulations on the win, and thank you for fighting for justice. The friends and family of John O'Keefe didn't seem to realize that bashing the jurors only serves to reinforce the perception of them as irrational. Peter, how surreal was this chat for you? It seems like you're enjoying the moment, casually talking shop with a couple of friends, colleagues. I appreciate genuine people who want to just come talk about the law, the legal system, being lawyers, what they did, what I can learn from them. Like, it's just really fun. It's really, really fun. And this whole YouTube journey has been such an unbelievable thing to me that I can't even put like guardrails on it or expectations on it because it never ceases to amaze me. In Australia, it's contempt to make comments that undermine the judicial system. You guys never made a motion for a mistrial in the first trial. Is this due to Lally being more ethical? Did Bev never have grave concerns for Brennan? That's a good point. Did they not ever do that? I don't know. Martian, thank you for this super sticker. Does Bob have a word of the day he tries to incorporate during trials? We thoroughly enjoyed what we call Alessiisms. Maybe he does, but he had so many in just a normal 1 hour conversation with three people talking that my guess is that's just part of the way he talks. All of you are fantastic lawyers. Thank you so much. It's not new news that snitches get stitches, LOL, but really, if you are worried about the consequence of speaking out, maybe don't do interviews. Thank you for your coverage of this trial, and thank you to Karen's lawyers. Amazing job. These guys also have reinforced my thought that any bashing or horrible things that were happening, or that, maybe spread out, or people that thought, oh, this is what the lawyers would want me to do, I don't think that's what they wanted anybody to do. I think they wanted a fair and impartial jury. They want to try this case. They wanted the public to know the truth. That's what I feel like. That's the vibe I got. If one type of case law could be established, developed, or created as a result of the trial, what would you hope/want it to be? Yeah, I didn't get to dig into the verdict form very much with them. Never argue with stupid people. They will always drag you down to their level and beat you with experience, Twain. Peter, this was a fantastic interview. I hope you know how much the law community appreciates you. Take it all in and enjoy your success. You 100% deserve it. Love from Alberta, Canada. Thank you so much. Taylor, it would be cool if the whole team did a small Q&A tour where some percentage of the profits go to legal aid foundations. That would be awesome. Love this bromance. It truly did blossom, right? Alessi's 5-minute daily podcast where you give us a word of the day. Well, that would be great. This episode is a dream come true. Would welcome you all to help us pass laws so the police don't investigate themselves when they're involved in a death. They already shouldn't, right? Certain things that already exist that some people don't necessarily follow. I wish we were friends, but not here, there. 3 gentlemen and scholars. Hello and thank you, Mr. Yannetti and Mr. Alessi. Now to my question regarding Ms. Deaver. Did anyone know of her false memory defense beforehand? Did Mr. Jackson wing it after the initial clocks? They didn't want to get into these type of specifics, strategies, and things that happen to individual witnesses. So apologize, I wasn't able to get into that. You did great, Peter. Bob, Dave, and Peter's show would be a hit. I would love to have them on any way I could help them. They deserve it. They're awesome. They've done so much for justice and lawyers in the justice system. Thank you, Azam. Thank you, Sherry. Great job, Peter. Love those guys. They're pretty awesome. Peter is glowing. He has the vapors. I think it was just I was sweating because that sweatshirt, I don't know if the air shut off in here or what. Peter, you're smiling from ear to ear. It was awesome, man. I love learning. I love talking about this stuff. It's so awesome. LOL, when they hung up, you looked just like a kid who tried so hard to be cool, then met their hero, then turned around like, oh my gosh, did you see that? Hopefully I wasn't trying too hard. Wow, great interview, Peter. I've been around since the depth days and love to see the channel grow, but you and your coverage stay unbiased. You rock. I'm here like a proud mama. Yeah, I mean, there were definitely things I disagreed with throughout the trial, so I'm always like, oh, they watched. I wonder if it was. And he said we saw some of that, but I promise you, real lawyers, that doesn't bother them. MVAC Forensic Vacuum will solve what's on garage floor. Please send to the team. It has solved many cases picking up DNA off concrete. Interesting. Peter, how did that feel? They're superstars. It was awesome. It was so much fun. Great interview. I just want someone to ask Alessi how long to eat a ham sandwich. I bet he knows or could figure it out. He's probably done research. If Brennan had full discretion and believed she did it, then he isn't very good at discerning credibility of evidence or knowing what it takes to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a big part of a prosecutor's job. What led him to believe Karen Reed did do it, though? I mean, I think we saw it presented. Peter, you always say that the chat is the jury. I hope the defense was paying attention to the ion, to us, as well as your expertise. Thanks. I'm sure that they were. Peter, the heartthrob of YouTube. Stop. Not wrong with the admission makes me feel like a pedo. I'm 37. 37. I'm plenty grown. Look at this gray. Look at this gray. They inform people objecting to this prosecution is telling founding fathers wanted this, open courts and the First Amendment. And as you all pointed out, Brennan never thanked the jury. Epic fail. Got called for jury duty this fall. Maybe hope to see David. Ooh, in Massachusetts. Who knows? Maybe you've seen David. I think that might be a problem for him in jury selection coming up. Has anybody ever seen anybody in this courtroom before? The famous David Yannetti. Can we serve, Massachusetts, we can serve once every 3 years. It's my 5th. Looking extra forward to it this time. Good. We have sent many messages. Good. Encouragement. Thank you, Peter. This was a great follow-up to Runkle's interview. Alessi and Yannetti are such gracious gentlemen. Couldn't agree more. Please say we're going to cover Barry Morphew. We'll see. Peter, congrats on an amazing interview. You are the most ethical, humble, genuine, and kind person I've met. I feel like I know you. Respect, my friend. I mean, that's awesome. I really, really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Peter, did you coin Proctor the boogeyman? I mean, I said it. I don't know if I can say I coined it. Maybe it was obvious and everybody thought the same thing. Thank you, Kay. The passion each of you have for your clients and our law is what makes this country great. Thank you. Did you see Brennan's disgraceful statement today? Yes, they did. We got their comments on that. Peter, is this your first time talking to them about the case? It is my first time sitting here publicly with all of you talking about all of this. Alva, I did not talk to them at all about the trial. We just kind of talked about what we were going to talk about here. So I've talked to them a little bit before, but not during the trial at all. I can't help but wonder about their thoughts about third-party culprit Higgins and Albert. Thank you, Big Dog, for gifting memberships, and Carrie. Missed the whole interview. I was watching your debrief with Andrea, which was ripper. I love David and Bob. Such honorable, lovely men. Replay crew. It is. Thanks, Peter. Yes. Go back, check it out. Let me know what you thought. Hey, I'm juror number 4. Loved your coverage of my TMZ interview. Thank you. Hey, Jason, I'm going to assume you're telling the truth and you're being honest, but I've gotten duped with one of the other juror interviews. So you could be duping me again. If it really is you, Jason, I appreciate the professional, legitimate, real life way you looked at this case as a juror. And I appreciate the interview. I learned, you heard Alessi say it. He soaks it up and drinks it up anytime a juror speaks, and any lawyer that doesn't, I'm like, what are you doing? We learn so much from the jurors that try our cases. Great interview. So glad to see this. Learned a lot of new details. Thank you so much, Runkle. Everybody go check out Runkle's. He got into a ton of the questions that you're asking that we did not get into. I missed this. My husband just retired, world boxing judge. He knows Bob. That's awesome. That's incredible. Margie, do you think even more can come regarding the integrity and transparency, maybe Karen Reed movement and true justice for John can maybe better practice in his name? I think so, man. The world is watching. Is there a reason AJ has been quiet? Love this. I don't think anybody would blame any of these guys for taking time and chilling, really, which is why I really appreciate people talking about this. They all deserve a break. Yannetti's talking about how he's already back in court. Oof. Kudos to him. Motions in CPA. Thanks for gifting 5 memberships. I may be slow, but I finally realized today why the FBI never looked at this case. Brian Hagan is a federal agent, so the FBI would investigate him as possibly culpable for future employment. I don't think that would stop him. Great interview. They are the genius and the gentleman, and you are the best. I like that. It's a good podcast title. Peter just made the chat, ladies pass out. LOL, sorry, had to. I don't know what you mean. Their thoughts when Brennan turned on his expert. Great interview. So different from Runkle's, but just as impressive. Yeah, we're all different. That's what's cool about, that team had a bunch of different, all the people doing this are different. The lawyers talking about this are different. And I think Yannetti and Alessi would be a different flavor to this. And I think they'd add a ton to the conversation. Can Alessi represent Karen in the civil suit? They usually, insurance companies hire their own lawyers. Peter, your smile is everything. Awesome job. I need to do it more then. It shouldn't be just an offhand thing. I love to watch an interview with Liza Little, the unsung hero as described by David Yannetti. I don't know if anyone has invited her specifically. I have, and I'd be pumped to talk to her as well. I met Yannetti at work today. He is such a kind man, and I know he thinks this may be temporary fame, but I think it's the recognition he deserved. I don't think it's going to be temporary, especially locally. Next witness, what's really cool about all the interviews these two did is that there wasn't a lot of repetition. New information from each lawyer they have sat down with. That's important. That's important. Watch Runkle of the Bailey's interview. He had 2.5 hours with them, and lots of your questions not answered here are there. Great job, Peter. I agree with that. Please interview the other half of the dream team. Would absolutely love to. Can we get an interview with Sarah Boone's prosecutor? I don't think they're going to. Fascinated with what they thought and how they prepared for that case. Loved it tonight. They didn't seem like the type that would want to do that. Pharmacist, doesn't hit the same. Fangirling over lawyers, including you, wasn't supported by past evidence of my life. Nicole watched every interview. What a team. Smart, humble, united. Peter, you can see the respect they had for you. You are also humble and real, inspiring and brilliant. No ego, just heart and brains. Bravo. They were so incredibly respectful and nice and complimentary in all of our conversation before. It was almost too much. I was like, you're making me uncomfortable. They're just so genuinely nice. They also feel like it feels good from my perspective because they don't feel like the type of guys to just blow smoke and say it just to say it. I screeched when I saw your bat signal for this one. Loved it. We haven't used the bat signal in a while. For Bob Alessi, what did you think when the judge said, I didn't hear an objection after your argument of the mistrial for the holes in the sweatshirt episode? I had a split IT second. Oh, no. Celia v. B. Alessi, who would win? Why do so many people say that JOK's case will never be solved? Is there any way to open a separate investigation? When you do such a bad investigation to jump, or from the jump, it's so hard to go backwards. Yes, everybody, please hit that like button. Thank you, Amber. Melanie, thanks for the super sticker. Can you shout out my sis at Purple Coconut? She's in Greece, so rewatch. I'll be there in 2 weeks. That's when I take my break. Some people are like, hey, friend, why don't you chill? I have no chill. You guys know that. Peter No Chill Tragos. I used to call my daughter Brooklyn No Chill Tragos. And truthfully, that's me. Vanessa, thank you so much. I'm Team Karen, but why did the Alberts leave the body on the front lawn? Cops can do better than that. Thoughts? I'm from Norfolk County. Nothing is going to happen to Bev. Check out family court judge Patricia Gorman. 2 bills were filed, but went nowhere. It's an honor and a pleasure to watch your channel. So insightful. Thank you so much, Caleb. I also had multiple lawyers reach out to me on like LinkedIn and other things being like, you're right. The lawyers are with you. Don't listen to the haters. Like, we get it. It's hard. Being a lawyer is a different vibe. And that's always really cool. So I appreciate everybody reaching out. Any idea who did it? Your opinion? Might want to change your shirt. Some drool stains. Am I spitting? I feel like this is one of those moments where I'm totally something the chat's talking about is going over my head. I'm trying to hit all these questions here. We're 2 hours. That's a long one for me. I can't sit on a jury because of medical issues. I wish I could. Hey, well, we're glad you're here, Jen. And I want your voice to be heard here because you can still have a positive effect on the judicial system. My mom and I watch your channel together all the time. She has jury duty in the AM. Haha, watching you has definitely helped her prepare. I love this. Tell me this. You're not bothering me when you tell me this, and tell me your experiences. I also did the age check with my wife. That's awesome. Has John O'Rourke changed his mind? If not, what trial was he watching? So he's given us a lot of his comments, and I appreciate them. All right, we're almost done here. We are so close to being done. Proud of you, Peter. Best chat. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Does Alessi know the great Papa Tragos? He was mentioning him. I don't know if they've ever crossed paths or not. It wouldn't really surprise me. 2 big shots who have been doing it for a long time. What advice do you have for someone who might not have the resources, high-profile case to obtain a good lawyer? Not many can afford a dream team. That's true, and I think all these lawyers would agree. It happens far too often. It's really sad. It's a problem with our justice system that feels impossible to fix. We've got to have better funded public defender offices, and we have to lobby and make sure everybody understands this is a real problem. Be an advocate in your own case. Don't let it fall short. Push and push and push with the lawyer that you have and help as much as you can, like Karen Reed did. Andrea said Bev had been reversed on several defense-leaning rulings. I think she may have been overcorrecting rather than biased on some or both. It's possible. Thank you for all your fantastic coverage. This case inspired me to go back and pursue a law degree. Ironically, I got my acceptance on verdict today. Appreciate all your insight and knowledge. That's awesome. Joke from an 8-year-old. I just added my grandma to my speed dial. What did you call it? Instagram. Wonderful. What's their combined IQ of that defense team is. Thanks for a great interview. Oh, it's high. Yannetti has a voice that reaches out and touches you. I bet Alessi was super shocked how many lawyers are on YouTube. Oh, yeah. I know I was, and I'm one of them. Would give anything to know how he used it in building their case. Thank you, Peter. Any good lawyer says, plagiarize is a bad word, obviously, but we learn from each other and use what each other says and does in cases. Case law builds what we do. Precedent builds what we do. It's literally just copying off what happened before. How come one says, I think she's guilty, but yeah, there's some doubt. Logically inconsistent and actual oxymoron. What do they rely on? Those people are never explained and only say, I think she's guilty based on what? That's the lawyer's job, like Alan Jackson, Yannetti, Alessi, and Eliza Little, their job to teach the jury what that actually means. And I thought they did a great job in this trial from beginning to end. If you think that, it's not guilty. If you think she's guilty, but if you think she's probably guilty, maybe guilty, that's not guilty. Peter, I meant you were glowing because your face lit up and you look so happy. Jury duty in August, I'm ready. If it's Pinellas County, I could be seeing you, sir. John O'Rourke, I'm biased, but the Runkle interview equals 7, lawyer equals 9, and 1 hour facts. Oh, no. Runkle's was awesome. Learned a ton from it. It was a long one. You guys got to get so much information. Probably get to know, their personalities even more, which is awesome. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot from it. You think Brennan is kin to Roy Cohn? I don't know what this means. Okay. I appreciate it. That's it. We got through them all. You guys are the best. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you encourage them on any social media. You see them, any interviews they're doing. They're awesome. They're being really generous with their time. So I appreciate them so much coming on here and what they're doing for the justice system and how they're getting out there and continuing to talk about the case. All right. That's it. Hit the like button on your way out. We're done. Peace. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a pase you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the Lawyer You Know.